Hello, everybody. So, yesterday we kind of talked about the difference between our open split and our square split. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of squaring the hips in general, not just in your splits, but just overall in your practice, just being very aware of where your hips are and how your pelvis is. Just a friendly reminder that we are not getting any younger. And my clientele is full of seasoned sisters. So it's really important that y'all know y'all can't just be out here doing anything, just getting the split any old type of way. The older we get, the more important it is that we do things correctly. And when you learn something correctly, it's going to take you a little bit more time. So be patient and enjoy the ride. But it is very important that y'all do things correctly because you're going to be around here messing something up, getting a hip replacement, and not on my time. If you come and work with me, just know that we're doing it correctly. We're following the rules. We're listening to the body. It's not just about getting it your lowest, but we're getting it there safely. We're going to get low, but we're going to do it safely. Naturally, we all have one side that's a little bit more flexible than the other, and we have a side that's a little bit more strong than the other. So, whenever you're comfortable in your misalignment, when you're allowing one hip to lead constantly, you're not being very intentional about keeping the hip square. You can potentially cause misalignment in the hips. So whenever you're going to the chiropractor, you're like, oh, one of my hips is one of my legs is longer than the other. One of my hips is way tighter than the other. Like you can feel the misalignment in other ways. I want to really touch on the subject of being comfortable in your misalignment because when you think about posture, a lot of people are comfortable slouching. They get so comfortable that when it comes time to sit up straight and pull your shoulders back, that it almost feels like you're sticking your chest out because they've grown so comfortable in that misalignment. So just a reminder, just because something feels good or is comfortable does not mean that it's right or it's good for you. And that could be applied on and off the mat. Because whenever you keep the hip square, even if one side is more flexible, if you're being more aware of your pelvis, it doesn't necessarily change the way that your pelvis sits. However, if you're leaning into one side a little bit more than the other as far as your hips go, that is where that misalignment comes, because when we have a favorite side, we tend to gravitate to that side more. So then we're overstretching that side, and then we're also ignoring the side that needs the work. And that is something that you guys want to be very aware of in your practice. Constantly doing the things that are easy for you is counterproductive to the flexibility journey. And we're trying to create balance in the body. And whenever you're doing what is easiest, you're creating an imbalance, because what you should be doing is what is more challenging for you. So if your right leg is good, so let's focus on the left leg a little bit more, making sure that we isolate the leg, holding the stretches a little bit longer on that side, making sure that we're doing strengthening drills also, because we're never just passively stretching. We're active stretchers. Because remember, the floor is not doing the work, you're doing the work. So you want to constantly remind yourself of that, and making sure that you're taking several different approaches to one skill so that your body and your mind fully grasp the concept of what is expected in order to achieve that skill. Keeping the hip square, even in your lunges, even in your reclined splits, just being very aware of your hips, raising the body awareness, just being aware of where they are. What does it even mean? What does it look like when your hips are unsquare versus what does it look like when they are square? And once you know what it looks like, then you have to get into what it feels like, because you can't constantly be looking in the mirror every time you're stretching. That's the beginner stage. Okay, now I need to know what it looks like. And usually when your hips are unsquare, if you turn with your butt facing the mirror, if the hips are unsquare, then you should be able to see both of you. You will be able to see both of your butt cheeks very clearly, or you'll see too much of the outside cheek. But whenever you turn and square your hips, you can't see any butt cheek. Actually, it's just like a perfect profile, and it's literally a perfect profile. You should not be able to see your backside at all, or even if the camera or the mirror is on the front side of you, you should not be opened up towards the camera. It should be a perfect profile. So whenever you look at yourself sideways, if you're trying to keep your hips square, just try to think, I want to show someone my perfect profile. I don't want them to see my backside or my front side, just directly hitting that angle. smashing it. So that's the best way, like the best reminder that I give all of my students on being aware of where their pelvis is and how it's sitting. And ways that you can correct that is through proper engagement. So making sure that you're engaging the glute on the trail leg. We kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the duties of your lead leg and your trail leg, because they both have separate jobs. They both have the exact opposite job, actually. They're doing like the exact opposite thing. They're like, pow. So understanding how both of those legs work is like the best way to really, really understanding the split. And yeah, so yeah, make sure you're doing the things that are difficult for you. Make sure that you're aware of your pelvis. Oh, keeping the hips square, butt cheeks next to each other. You never want to stack them on top of each other or allow one hip to lead more, because then you're potentially doing what? Misaligning your hips. Yes, and we don't want misaligned hips. We're aging. We ain't getting no younger, baby. These hips gonna misalign all on their own. So we have to be aware of ourselves, aware of our bodies in general. We're ladies. Remember, split like a lady.